Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So reading again from the Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. So where are we?
Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 41.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 41. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ananta eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. Purport. According to Vedic injunctions, a fire sacrifice is held in order to give food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the names of the different demigods. While performing a fire sacrifice, one pronounces the word Swaha in mantras such as Indraya Swaha and Adityaya Swaha. These mantras are uttered to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead through demigods such as Indra and Aditya. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Naham tishtani vaikunte yoginam hridayeshuva tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. I am not in Vaikuntha, nor in the hearts of the yogis. I remain where my devotees engage in glorifying my activities. It is to be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not leave the company of his devotees. That's very interesting they haven't put the reference to that. That's unusual, because normally these quotes are backed up from where they come from.
Not always, but true.
As far as I've seen, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of that paragraph, and it's a nice point that Krishna is wherever he's glorified, wherever his devotees are glorifying him. I thought that was nice because, like yesterday, we said we had a community sangha, and I thought it's as simple as getting together with one other person, like now, or a group, but it just something that kind of really resonate, like a penny drop thing. Where I thought, it's as simple as that, and you can evoke the Lord, and more so than you see the brahmanas, whatever you're doing yagya, or like you may not do deity worship, you may look at someone, look, they dress the deities, or they're doing arati, oh my god, but it is a simple, and even if you don't have anyone, it doesn't matter, you can still open the book and read it out loud, or just read it to yourself, because you're still, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you're still worshipping him through his intelligence, and he's still there. And I thought, wow, that's so amazing, actually. You could be anywhere. You could be like tomorrow in the car. I get car sick, so I can't read in the car. But if I could, we could read like for 3 or 4 hours, which is how long the journey's going to be. Or when we stop over at a gas station or wherever, that statement stands true, I presume, that wherever you are, discussing and glorifying my activities, which means reading. Doesn't mean you have to go out and give a big speech out there. It just means picking up Prabhupada's books and reading them. That's where Krishna is, and I thought, wow, that's really powerful, Yeah,
beautiful. Yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. Yeah, wherever my devotees engage in gayanti, like glorifying, singing my activities. Gayatri means to sing. It's actually the Gayatri mantra is just meant to be sung. And but I really like this, the actual verse itself. It says that even though Krishna or Ananta eats through the fire sacrifices, he doesn't take as much pleasure as eating through fire as he does accepting offerings through the mouths of the devotees. So when devotees eat, the Lord is also being fed, and he's more pleased. But then he says, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. which means that because also prasad is not different from Krishna, and it means that he's there with the devotees. So when you're offering, fire or grains into the fire, offerings into the fire, it might not be quite the same. But when we feed the brahmanas, then he feels like he's close with the devotees. So it's very powerful. So it's, again, continuing the idea of how valuable it is to serve devotees, how much pleasure that gives Krishna, and the traditional way to a person's heart is through their tummy, through their belly. So when we feed the devotees become pleased. And we could see yesterday or the other day when we had the community sangha that at the end everyone brought a dish. They call it potluck here, and everyone brings a dish, and then we served out. We had everyone sit down and we served them. It was a little bit of a ruckus about that because it's like, no, we want to serve you. Sit down, be comfortable, let us serve. and so, but yeah, everyone was like, wow, it was very fulfilling, satisfying for them, and it's also satisfying. I've always found it to be super satisfying when I serve. I like it so much that I don't necessarily feel so hungry if we serve in the right mood, because we also feel satisfaction through serving others. Okay, end of the paragraph or the purport. Fire is certainly devoid of life, but devotees and brahmanas are the living representatives of the Supreme Lord. Here we go. Therefore, to feed brahmanas and Vaishnavas is to feed the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. So by feeding the devotees, you're feeding Krishna. It may be concluded that instead of offering fire sacrifices, one should offer foodstuffs to brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for that process is more effective than fire yajna. The vivid example of this principle in action was given by Advaita Prabhu. When he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he first of all called Haridas Thakur and offered him food. It is the practice that after finishing the Shraddha ceremony, one should offer food to an elevated Brahmana. But Advaita offered food first to Haridas Thakur, who had taken his birth in a Mohammedan family. Therefore, Haridas Thakur asked Advaita Prabhu why he was doing something which might jeopardize his position in Brahmin society. Advaita Prabhu replied that he was feeding millions of first-class brahmanas by offering the food to Haridas Thakur. He was prepared to talk with any learned brahmana on this point and prove definitely that by offering food to a pure devotee like Haridas Thakur, he was equally as blessed as he would have been by offering food to thousands of learned brahmanas. When performing sacrifices, one offers oblations to the sacrificial fire. But when such oblations are offered to Vaishnavas, they are certainly more effective. Beautiful. Jai Srila Prabhupada. He really summed up what I was saying much better in the purport, and also using this wonderful example, which actually, to be honest, I'm sure, of course, I've read it here before, but it must be in Chaitanya Bhagavat, because I don't remember that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that pastime. I vaguely remember hearing it, but it's very powerful that Advaita Acharya, who was extremely respected in both the Vaishnava and Brahminical communities of Navadvip, for him to do that, because in those days, if you even, Haridas Thakur would have been considered an untouchable. So he would have been like someone that you shouldn't even associate with. What to speak of feeding him and honoring him in that way, but what to speak of honoring him before you even do the ceremony. So it's really powerful that even going back in our lineage so many centuries, that we see that our greatest acharyas, Advaita Acharya, for example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they were perpetually trying to adjust the smarta mentality of the Brahmin community by understanding these core principles that are here in Shastra, but often not really taken with a greater understanding. As we were saying, the word Vaishnava often isn't there in the translation, but is implied by the fact that a Brahmin may be a devotee of the Lord, but a Vaishnava is 108% devoted to the Lord, and so therefore is more elevated. And again, with our acharyas, Bhaktivedanta Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, both of them spent a lot of time and energy trying to make it very clear. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has written a book called Brahmana and Vaishnava, and in that book you can see how powerfully he explains this whole thing and backs it up with Shastra. Hare Krishna. Okay. Should we finish there? It's a very long purport, the next one, so we'll pick up on that again another time.
I just really said a quick point about this caste, the brahmanas, and judging based on what someone is.
Their birth.
Yeah, as opposed to the
qualities.
Yeah.
We work together.
Right. It's interesting because you may not. I guess you would experience it being like a American white-bodied Vaishnava. Yeah, people. No. People would judge you from an Indian community, maybe like, what is this? What do they know? But and also, but
perpetually.
And also in an Indian body and coming from Indian background, it's interesting when you're growing up, because I was brought up in London, and to be honest with you, it was like, where'd you live? South London. Where are you from? Tooting, But we saw this, me, my brothers and cousins, it was like a thing for the generation above us it didn't matter what someone was doing, like cousins, whatever, doctors, lawyers, decent, very good education, not decent. It didn't matter what they were doing. It was like, so-and-so's son, the mechanical engineer or this or that. Oh, the one who's from such and such village, the one who's, and it was interesting, like, it's only you start reading Prabhupada's books and you kind of like understand, it's what your qualification and and character and what you're doing. It's irrelevant, like the background, the caste, the this and that, but people do judge on that. I mean, it's not over. Like, even when I was talking to an older relative, and then it's like, oh, did you know so-and-so's getting married? Oh, that's great. Yeah, and I'm talking about people like in the West, either in England or in America. And so, the boy they're married or the girl they're married, they're from such and such village. You're like, what the hell? What are they doing here now? But that thing keeps coming on,
Well, it's it is an understood thing. It doesn't necessarily determine the character of a person, but it's like it is a way that people judge, they judge, or they determine your level of qualification. If you're if you're from the we went to Oxford, or went to Stanford, or went to Stanford.
Well, I think Stanford.
You went to these places, this school, but then it's like, you went to some community college. Oh, okay. But actually, people out of those kind of places also can be great people. So it's not, it's externals. We often judge by externals. But hey, what else do we often have to judge by? And there has to be some discrimination made. I'm not saying we're discriminating in a negative way, but discrimination means we need to be able to discriminate between how to act and conduct ourselves amongst different types of persons, And you might say, no, one size fits all, but that's just absolutely not true. You don't curtsy to every woman you see like you would for the queen, you know. It's like there's a certain way that we act. And even our Vaishnava culture shows that we treat different persons at different levels or different age groups or different things like that in a certain way. So it's finding that balance between the two. But most times the default is like, oh, this person's born in this family and this place and they're like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like that necessarily.
Yeah. No, okay, I'll go rambling, sorry. The point I was making was the person who's allegedly from a lower ashram or caste may be materially better off and qualified and this and that than the person who's from a so-called higher caste or this or the ashram, whatever. And yet the person, because they're from a higher caste or village, whatever, lineage, they would still look down on the other one, and you think, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That was anyway the point I was trying to make, that it's like, no, it doesn't. Yeah. So okay, so that point, the reason I was making that was in relation to what we're reading, which was that Haridas Thakur. Okay, he came from a Muslim background, and you may, at the time, whatever, say, oh my God, but his character, his behavior, his Vaishnava qualities, his faith and bhakti put him on a much higher level than the people who would be judging him, you know, the brahmanas, so you know. And so that's my point. It's like it's just proportionate to what the actual qualification is, you know.
Or in this case, surrender to God.
Right.
Okay, should we try to repeat that again, or did you guys get it yet? You guys know what the point is? If you got it, put it in the comments and we'll let you know. All right, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Great exalted devotees like Haridas Thakur, Bhava Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki, 22nd Avenue Ki.
Jai.
Did you remember your Ki?
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.